Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you had a nice lunch and that you await the weekend in Mauritius. By tomorrow, at least you will have some 1 or few days to stay behind and enjoy the sea, the sun. With your permission, we are going to resume our business for today. I'll first of all wish to express my thanks once again to Philippines and also to Lebanon for taking up the chairpersonship on my behalf during the examination of some important items this morning and yesterday. Now that we have examined nominations to the urgent safeguarding list and the representative list, as well as the examination of proposals to the register of good safeguarding practices, we are left with item 10D regarding the examination of requests for international assistance. Before we go back to examine draft decision 13-10 concerning a number of cross-cutting issues that are common to the different mechanisms. We have one request to examine under this sub-item, and which has been submitted by Albania. Let me recall that we have here to evaluate to which extent this request meets the criteria for international assistance as a whole, just to remind ourselves that it is not necessary to meet each and every criterion to be eligible to this international assistance. And once again, it's good that we be reminded of the criteria, and these now appears on the screen. In addition to paragraph 10 of the operational directives, no, in fact, it is paragraph 10 of the operational directives which refers to two other considerations in addition to the 7 which appears on the screen right now, and which states that the committee, when considering the evaluation of international assistance, should also look into the cooperation at the bilateral, regional, and international levels, as provided for by paragraph 10A of the operational directives, and also about how the assistance may have a multiplier effect and may stimulate financial and technical contributions from other sources. With these few preliminary observations, Let us now move to examine this individual request. The request before us has been submitted by Albania for a project entitled Community-Based Inventory of ICH in Albania, with a view to safeguarding and transmitting to future generations. And this is under item 10D. May I now request the chairperson of the evaluation body to present the findings of the body. Mr. Omari, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Our file we examined under this 10D is community-based inventorying of ICH in Albania with a view to safeguarding and transmitting to future generations, submitted by Albania. Albania has requested international assistance of $213,260 from the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund for the implementation of the project aimed at carrying out a community-based inventory of intangible cultural heritage with a view of drawing up tailored action plans for its safeguarding and transmission to future generations. From the information included in the file, the request responds as follows to the criteria for granting international assistance as set out in paragraph 10 and 12 of the operational directives. The project involves a suitable set of activities which guarantees its visibility by training a large number of community members and experts in community-based inventory, and wide dissemination of the principles and working methods of the 2003 Convention. The active involvement of the state administration, research institutes, and regional NGOs may guarantee further development of the inventory after the conclusion of the project. The requesting state party has implemented previously financed activities. As the scope of the project is national, the state party will invite experts with the necessary know-how to ensure the appropriate quality of the project outcomes. However, the evaluation body considered that it is not clear how the communities were involved in the preparation of the request as well as the implementation and evaluation of the proposed project. Although the budget breakdown and timetable are well structured, however, the lack of coherence between the request, the budget, and the timetable does not allow assessment of the appropriateness of the requested amount. The digitalization of data is budgeted for 12 months, but is scheduled to last 15 months according to the timetable. The state party's contribution covers less than 1% of the total cost of the project, which raises concern about the sustainability of the project once the international assistance has ended. The file also does not explain how the project will stimulate financial and technical contribution from other sources or similar efforts elsewhere. In addition, the evaluation body wishes to invite the state party, should it wish to resubmit the request during a following cycle, to provide a clear and detailed explanation of its commitment, both financial and in kind, to demonstrate that the project will be sustainable once the international assistance has ended. Therefore, the Evaluation Board recommends that the committee refer the international assistance request to the state for the project entitled Community-Based Inventory of ICH in Albania with a view to safeguarding and transmitting to future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omare. Dear delegates, we have heard the recommendations of the evaluation body, and for this decision there has been a request for amendment put in by Lebanon. May I please request Lebanon to take the floor?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le projet de demande d'assistance internationale de l'Albanie montre que malgré les efforts déployés par le pays pour sauvegarder le patrimoine vivant, l'inventaire national avec la participation des communautés n'a pas encore été réalisé, d'où l'importance du projet pilote proposé pour 3 districts du pays. Arrivant à la fin du cycle d'examination des dossiers de candidature, permettez-nous de faire le constat que plusieurs dossiers n'ont pas été adoptés à cause de failles techniques. Ce dossier représente un exemple de plus, ce qui nous mène à dire qu'un grand effort de renforcement de capacité est encore à faire. Et c'est donc à cet effet que nous avons présenté les amendements. Mais nous aimerions d'abord écouter l'Albanie, écouter les réponses de l'Albanie aux remarques faites par l'organe d'évaluation.
Merci, le Liban. Si nous n'avons pas d'autres membres du comité qui voudront intervenir à ce stade, avec votre permission, je vais demander à l'Albanie de réagir sur les recommandations du comité d'évaluation. L'Albanie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the evaluation body for its evaluation it has made to our requests for assistance. It duly recognizes the considerable efforts already taken to safeguard living heritage in Albania and transmission of this heritage to future generations. It also highlights the crucial importance of the project in order to build capacity and for a best and comprehensive inventory with a very clear impact on the community. In the 3 districts chosen out of 12 of the country, there are 5 groups of national minorities living which confers to this exercise a clear value added in fostering cooperation within and among communities with an understandable broader impact at the regional level as well. One of the main deliverables of the project will be to create a mechanism to involve the communities in the safeguarding process by creating a pattern of the inventory, which could later be replicated to other 8 regions in the country. The assistance, if provided, will be a strong support to efforts already underway in order to speed up the process, train and empower communities, which will be the focus of the project with a clear approach bottom-up, contrary to what has been done before in the country, which has been from top down. The community will play an important role in monitoring and validating the results of the inventorying process. Their views, experience and preferences will be taken into account, as will their reflections on the meaning and significance of the intangible cultural heritage inventoried. The evaluation has rightly identified some inconsistencies in the compilation of the budget and the timeline. We're really sorry for that. It is regretful that the file did not go what one can call an attentive final proofreading, which could have corrected these inconsistencies. The evaluation body rightly points out as well that the in-kind contribution of the state party, although clearly mentioned in the file, has not been quantified. it gives the wrong impression that the involvement of the state party is insufficient and could raise concerns regarding the sustainability of the project during its implementation and after. These issues echo, in fact, a remark made several times before and during this session of the need for a better and more fluid communication and interaction between state parties and the evaluation body. I can openly say that the many and various technical and other means and the dedicated human resources that will be engaged by the local and central authorities in addition and together with the assistance amounts to a considerable contribution to ensure smooth implementation of the project and ensure continuation and sustainability so that the experience of the project in the 3 districts chosen will be duly, and I'm hopeful, successfully replicated and extended throughout the country. It may as well serve as a model for other countries in the region should they wish to do so. The best sustainability proof will be some 100 community bearers in the targeted area, so in those 3 districts, who will directly benefit from the project. Sustainability is also ensured by the fact that the project is the starting point of a much larger effort in order to compile not just an inventory of the 3 districts involved, but an inventory of the ICH at a national scale. If our request is approved, as proposed by the amendments, we stand ready to work to reach an agreement as it may be appropriate to resolve these technical issues identified prior to implementation. We will, and I would like to put on record, we will duly quantify this substantial in-kind contribution by local and central authorities, which is not 1%, but goes way beyond 10% of the requested assistance, and we will make sure that the project is sustainable for its duration, as well as during the follow-up community-based inventory in the remaining parts of the country. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Albania. Do I have any member of the committee who wishes to intervene at this juncture? There is Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have studied closely the nomination and find it the request quite strong, and think that the evaluation body, which has also closely examined it, itself indicates many high qualities of this request, and indicates that there are some issues which seem to be more of technical nature and which could have been solved before, like requesting additional information from the state party. So we think that the request is a very strong one and deserves a consideration by the committee. Thank you, as according to the amendments.
Thank you, Kazakhstan. Dear members, we have heard the recommendation of the evaluation body and also the clarifications from the submitting state. And since I don't see anybody wishing to intervene now, I believe it is the appropriate time for us to move to the adoption of the decision, paragraph by paragraph. Paragraph 1, no objection to its adoption. Paragraph 1 adopted. Paragraph 2, I see, is there any issue about paragraph 2, Secretary? Mr. Secretary, is there any issue about paragraph 2?
Sorry, Mr. Chairperson, this represents a clerical error of the number of the file, so it's a correction of a clerical error on behalf of the Secretariat. Thank you.
I take it that we have no objection to the correction of this clerical error under paragraph 2. Paragraph 2 duly adopted as amended. Thank you. Paragraph 3. Is there any adopted? Paragraph 4. Adopted. Paragraph 5. Adopted. Paragraph 6. Adopted. And now we come to paragraph 7, where Lebanon has filed in an amendment. Yes, Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like our name to be added to this proposal.
Okay. Palestine.
I have only a question to the Secretariat. Maybe they can help us, because there are so many concerns in the previous paragraph that reflects the concerns of the evaluation body, and we didn't amend them to change the amendment from refer to approval. Could it be coherent? Can we go on this way? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Secretary, can you wish to respond?
You asked me if it would be coherent. I must say it would not be coherent if the texts of the criterion were not aligned to the decision that the committee would take in order for the evaluation of this file.
Yes, thank you for this clarification. May I hear from Lebanon what is they stand in the light of the. Yes, let us hear once more some further clarification from the Secretary.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not coherent. I said it wouldn't. It needs to be coherent, but I would need to reread the ones.
Yes, Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe, since we need to have it coherent, maybe we should give time to amend the previous paragraph in order to be coherent and to adopt the new recommendation. I'm not against, I'm just saying for the coherency. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I hope that the Secretary is going to share some good news with us.
Well, no, I think we can find a solution to potential inconsistency should, and I say should, the committee decide to approve, and there is a precedent where the committee has then asked the submitting state to work with the Secretariat for a later presentation to the Bureau. There is one precedent for that in the context of an international assistance request. That means the later paragraphs would have to be amended in consistency with that precedent.
Yes, Palestine.
Well, I think it is a good proposal. We can go forward with it if there is no objection. I think it is a good proposal and we can go forward with it if there is no objection from our colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let me be guided by the Secretary.
We would just request a little bit of time to ensure coherence and consistency with the precedent, to look at the way it was done.
Please, can you just bear with us for a few minutes? If Palestine wishes to...
Yes, Mr. Chair, with your permission, in order not to waste time and we have other business, maybe we can give some time for the Secretariat to look on it and we'll come back to it once it is correctly amended, if it is agreeable for you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If it isn't going to take long, perhaps we can just ask the Secretariat to finish with it. In that case, can we? Let us give some time to the Secretary to do some corrections, and there is no point in rushing. And let us suspend consideration of this item, and at some point in time, we are going to come back to this. Okay, let us now suspend this, consideration of this item, and hopefully very shortly we will come back to that. Item 10D is suspended for some time. Dear colleagues, we have so far completed 47 individual files under items 10A, B, C, and we have also under 10D one which we have just suspended, and we have one file remaining for the chamame submitted by Argentina. You will remember that we suspended the examination of the corresponding draft decision. As a reminder, when we suspended our examination on Wednesday, a draft decision 13-10B1, when we suspended our examination on this draft decision 13-10B1, pertaining to the nomination of Chamame, submitted by Argentina, we requested the Secretariat to reflect on a creative procedure that would allow the file to be examined by the committee as soon as next year. Responding to our request, the Secretariat gracefully accepted and presented to the Bureau yesterday morning a proposal for a preliminary dialogue procedure. Following this, Bureau members undertook consultations on this matter within their respective electoral groups. Based on our debates, it is my understanding that in order to come to a consensus on draft decision 13-10B1, we first need to discuss the proposal presented to us by the Secretariat. If members of the committee agree, I would therefore like to propose to first open a general debate on the proposals for a preliminary dialogue procedure. At what stage we would have two possible solutions. If the committee comes to a consensus, we could discuss and adopt paragraphs concerning the dialogue mechanism that could be integrated in draft chapeau decision 13-10. Then we return to the remaining files under item 10B. If a consensus around a preliminary dialogue mechanism does not emerge, I believe that it would be best to resume our examination of the remaining files under 10B before starting our general debate under item 10 as originally planned. I wish to have the comment and views of the committee on this way of proceeding. I take it that nobody has any objection to the proposal made by the chair. And in that case, let us open the debate concerning the proposal for a preliminary dialogue as circulated yesterday. As this is a matter of great interest not only to members of the committee, but also to all state parties to the convention, I wish to ensure that the debate is as inclusive as possible. And in accordance with Article 22.3 of our Rules of Procedure, I will first give the floor to committee members and then to observers. As required, we may also seek the opinion of the evaluation body and of the Secretariat. With these few words, I now invite committee members to take the floor on this issue. Thank you. Just to remind that we have to consider the proposal coming from the Secretariat regarding the... Yes. I believe that we can show on the screens the proposals, a draft of the proposal of the Secretariat. Non, c'est pas ça, non? No. We don't have it, it can't be shown on the screens. But let me give the floor to the Secretariat to once again read to you the proposal that he made yesterday. Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Without reading the preliminary statements I made before going straight to the proposal, as I read them yesterday, both in the Bureau and at the opening of this session, I will go straight to the proposal, which is that those states whose files will be referred at the current session could submit to the Secretariat clarifications prior to the first meeting of the evaluation body, foreseen at the end of February next year, should they wish to do so. These clarifications should respond to the concerns of the committee and the evaluation body on the referred criteria and must be provided in the 2 working languages of the committee, English and French. The word count should not exceed the total word limit set in the nomination form for the criteria concerned. The Secretariat shall register and not acknowledge receipt of the clarifications received. It will not check if the information is complete. The Secretariat will then forward the clarifications to the evaluation body, which will assess these against its original recommendations on those criteria and review their initial recommendation on the basis of the clarifications received. The files concerned will then be re-examined by the committee at its 14th session next year and are not considered as newly submitted files. As I mentioned before, the committee would need to review this procedure for a discussion at the 8th session of the General Assembly, taking into account the preliminary remarks I said yesterday. These files will be considered above the adopted overall ceiling for the 2019 cycle and will not count in the quota of states concerned. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yes, Philippine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Just to begin this debate, we take note of this proposal. We just want to take this opportunity, though, to clarify our position that, and what we've seen during this session and the last 2 years, is that the dialogue being called for is in fact a dialogue within the evaluation process. And this proposal is a proposal about the files that were referred at this session. It's a little different from the one that we've been calling for, have been working for in the ad hoc working group, and also in consultation with the Secretariat and the evaluation body. And I must also emphasize that the General Assembly does have a decision on a dialogue within the evaluation process. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to clarify this position of ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Palestine.
Shukran, Sayyid al-Ra'is. Vous savez très bien que depuis hier, les membres du comité et d'autres États partis à la Convention discutaient de cette offre. Notre position, la délégation de Palestine, appuie fortement cette proposition, même si, malheureusement, c'est une exception, mais ça a été bien dit, c'est une phase expérimentale. Effectivement, nous sommes tout à fait d'accord aussi avec notre collègue de Philippines, ce n'était pas la procédure voulue depuis 2 ans. Cependant, ça serait quand même, cette procédure va souligner l'importance du dialogue, primement, et deuxièmement, cette session, ce qui s'est passé à cette session, montre la nécessité d'avoir le dialogue. Having said this, Mr. Chair, I know that some other members will raise concerns saying that it doesn't fully respect the provisions of the operational directives. We know that, and we know that it might be a problem. But in any case, to address the concern of our colleague from Philippines, maybe at this stage and also on experimental basis, we can start a pilot phase of dialogue, upstream dialogue, which means for the files that are already in the pipeline for the next session and that will be evaluated in February and June, next June, maybe we can ask the evaluation body and the Secretariat once the evaluation is finished in June. This means that they have the recommendations on each file and on each criterion. Then we can ask them to address questions on the criteria not satisfied, send them to the state party concerned, and ask them to answer in the 2 languages in order to avoid wasting of time and money in October, which means ahead to the 3rd meeting of the evaluation body when they finalize their report in September. In September, they will look on these answers. If they are satisfied, they change the recommendation on the concerned criterion. If not, they keep it. And in that case, this is the mechanism of dialogue we were looking for. So we are just debating, and I would like to have the sentiment of our colleagues in the room. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Palestine. I see that the Djibouti wants to intervene.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Tout d'abord, je voudrais saluer la proposition formulée par le secrétariat de la Convention qui constitue en fait une porte de sortie et de règlement de ces petits problèmes. Néanmoins, il faut souligner que le mécanisme de dialogue recherché se situe en dehors de ce cadre de cette session. Ça doit être quelque chose qui doit devenir formel et standardisé, qui doit entrer dans les différents mécanismes de la Convention. Néanmoins, si le comité juge la nécessité d'expérimenter une première phase pour voir son efficacité par rapport aux différents problèmes, petits problèmes qui se posent, je pense que c'est une tentative louable. Je vous remercie.
China.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. My delegation welcomes the idea of the proposed dialogue procedure, which we hope to improve the evaluation mechanism and facilitate state parties for their nominations. We do appreciate the Secretariat's contribution to this. However, we should think that the committee shall be very cautious when it is to take this approach and make the dialogue mechanism really effective and efficient. We would like to share some of our observations based on some facts that need to be emphasized. Firstly, the evaluation body follows some principal working methods, including recalling the recommendations and experience of previous bodies, as well as past decisions of the committee while encountering cross-cutting issues. We understand that the evaluation body should strive to be consistent throughout the files and remain neutrality and equity, taking into account the individual circumstances of each file. It also should strictly adhere to the principle of exclusively evaluating the contents of the files only without making any assumptions or value judgments. The committee emphasized already in its decision 9-10 and decision 8-8 that its decision not to inscribe an element or refer in no way constitutes a judgment on the merits of the element itself, but refers only to the adequacy of the information presented in the file. The General Assembly adopted the first version of operational directive at second session in 2008, which included the 5 criteria for inscription on the representative list. In the past 10 years, 309 elements were already inscribed on the representative list, satisfying all of the 5 criteria. We take note that during the process of nomination, state parties found it particularly challenging to answer the question under R2. There is frequent misunderstanding of the purpose of this criteria, which results in the failure to satisfy this criteria. While R2, we have to state that it is said that inscription contributed to ensuring visibility and awareness of the significance of ICH, and to encouraging dialogue reflecting cultural diversity and human creativity. This fully reflects the purpose of the convention according to Article 16 and also the representative list, and we should always bear this in mind. The good thing is the form, the ICH2 has been revised and will be used in the next cycle thanks to the efforts of the Secretariat. Section 2.1 is broken down in subsections, and states parties are requested to explain how inscription will be local, national, and international levels, respectively. We still have to wait to reflect on the results of these revisions in the 2019 cycle. We believe that dialogue between state parties and the evaluation body shall be carried out in the upstream of the evaluation process instead of in the downstream, which is right before the evaluation body comes to finalize its recommendations. Having said all this, we come up with 3 questions. First, according to paragraph 28 of the operational directive, every year the committee shall renew 1/4 of the members of the evaluation body to balance the need for both continuity and fresh inputs. If those clarifications to be submitted before the first meeting of the evaluation body in 2019, how it will be worked out to ensure the new members of the evaluation body to keep consistent with the file and clarifications as the previous body. Meanwhile, the limited resources available and heavy workload of the committee, the Secretariat, and the evaluation body should be taken into account. Number 2, should this dialogue mechanism be open to all criteria, or should it be open to files referred only R2 alone? As we know that R2 refers to the definition of ICH, this is an overarching criterion. It is a must. And regarding R5, we can recall that in the year 2017, the evaluation body used a dual system for draft decisions. And this year, nominations benefit from new ICH2 form, and in which Section 5 has been broken down into 7 subsections. It is noted by the evaluation body that the improvements in the way state parties provided information compared with previous cycles. As a result, no nomination was recommended for a referral on R5 alone in this cycle. And that is why we raise this question for your kind reflection. And my third question is that, is this proposed dialogue procedure, even it is on an experimental basis, consistent to relevant rules of procedures or touch on any legal issues if the committee chooses to apply it before relevant operational directives is amended and approved by the General Assembly? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, China. I see the next one on my list is Cuba.
Gracias, señor presidente. Deseamos agradecer a la Secretaría por el trabajo realizado en tratar de presentarnos una opción que no contravenga las directrices operativas. No estoy muy seguro de que así sea ni de que la Secretaría lo tenga muy claro. Espero que podamos en este comité tomar una decisión responsablemente sobre eso. A nuestro juicio, Cuba apoyaría esta propuesta y creemos que sería una solución. Para nada que creo que el espíritu de los miembros de este comité es crear un precedente ni ni desvirtuar el sentido mismo de la convención ni de los criterios de selección para la lista representativa. Quiero también hacer un llamado de atención en que si algo ha constatado este debate, que no solo hemos tenido en esta sesión, sino que desde el 2016 se ha hecho cada vez más evidente, es que hay una necesidad de hacer una revisión profunda de los criterios, del mecanismo de nominación de la lista representativa, y a fin de no crear un desequilibrio o situaciones de crisis extremas como pasó en Etiopía, en que la mayor parte de todas las candidaturas fueron aprobadas independientemente del número de criterios que tuvieran recomendados favorablemente. Creo que esa es la intención y es el espíritu de todos los miembros de este comité, buscar un equilibrio que nos permita hacer nuestra convención mucho más fuerte, una lista justa y equilibrada que nos permita una mejor salvaguardia y protección y visibilidad también de nuestra convención. Estamos en sus manos, señor presidente. A juicio de esta delegación podríamos acompañar la propuesta que nos hace la Secretaría, pero tampoco queremos extender mucho más este tema. Muchas gracias.
Colombia.
Gracias, presidente. Queremos agradecer a la Secretaría que haya hecho esta propuesta, una propuesta pragmática, creativa, que da un paso adelante sobre un asunto que hemos discutido hace 3 años. De alguna manera veo que esta problemática que hemos tenido en estos días encuentra en la propuesta que ha hecho la Secretaría una posibilidad de avanzar. Entendería que la Secretaría ha hecho este trabajo de manera muy cuidadosa y acompañado de los servicios jurídicos de UNESCO. Yo veo esta propuesta de la Secretaría como un proyecto piloto, moderado, cuidadoso, con un campo de acción muy restringido y muy acotado. Creo que va a dar la posibilidad, repito, de avanzar en una aspiración que creo que tenemos de todos los lados de la Convención, que es fortalecer el diálogo. No creemos que estamos en un proyecto, no creemos que estamos frente a un proyecto piloto que va a cambiar la Convención. Estamos simplemente sentando unas nuevas condiciones de diálogo muy humildes para que nos pueden ser útiles y dan resultados para mostrar, digamos, una gestión de cambio, que es lo que hemos querido, más diálogo, más profundidad. Si este proyecto piloto funciona, podemos presentar también resultados a la Asamblea de 2020, lo cual sería también positivo. Así que, presidente, agradezco que usted haya tenido esta idea de que la Secretaría nos haya presentado esta propuesta, y de parte de Colombia la vamos a apoyar. Gracias, presidente.
Jamaica.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is being proposed could inform the proposed dialogue mechanism. Jamaica feels that we should be mindful of the notion that the spirit of the convention should encourage inscription. This is not to say that there should not be rigor in terms of evaluating nomination files, but at the same time, we should be cautious about seeming to be unnecessarily rigid. What has been proposed by the Secretariat, we feel, is a useful way of going forward, at least on an experimental basis, and therefore we support the proposal that has been put forward and thank the Secretariat for its considered input in this. Thank you.
Guatemala.
Gracias, señor presidente. Efectivamente, en primera instancia queremos agradecer por esta iniciativa muy sana y, como decían el día de ayer, no está prohibido en la Convención, tampoco está reglamentado en la Convención, por lo tanto sí cabe en la posibilidad de hacer digamos, un plan piloto, si lo queremos llamar así, o un proyecto experimental, porque muchas veces el diálogo no se da previo a esta asamblea, sino que en este caso lo estamos haciendo posterior a o durante la asamblea, que ya dificulta que el Estado proponiente o parte hacer sus enmiendas. En este caso creo que es una iniciativa muy sana y es una ganancia para las comunidades, para las personas portadoras de la cultura, que al final son ellos los que necesitan esta atención, este reconocimiento por la labor y por contribuir al patrimonio inmaterial de cada estado parte. Así que de nuestra parte, como país de Guatemala, estamos muy satisfechos en que se nos sea escuchado en las diferentes peticiones. Como digo, no violamos la convención, no cambiamos el espíritu y la naturaleza de la convención, tampoco hay un artículo que nos prohíba hacer un proyecto experimental. Por consiguiente, creo que todos los miembros del comité responsablemente deberíamos apoyar esta iniciativa, que obviamente esperemos en Dios que para el 2020 ya se vuelva un artículo más o un reglamento más dentro de la convención, que como digo es una ganancia para las comunidades que son partícipes de las diferentes manifestaciones, porque si no hay personas, no hay portadoras de la cultura, tampoco existe patrimonio intangible. Así que creo que es un proyecto muy acertado, como digo, que no solo se quede a nivel técnico, sino que también tenemos que considerar la participación valiente de las comunidades de los diferentes países del mundo. Así que muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Zambia, please.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to respond to the proposed dialogue mechanism by the Secretariat. I would like to note that we support fully the proposal by the Secretariat, because that is part and parcel of the process that most of the delegates have been talking about, and the state parties, to have dialogue between the evaluation body and the submitting states. And we would like to further say that we support Palestine's proposal and the Philippines' proposal to have this dialogue mechanism, but we also would like to observe that the dialogue should be restricted to the first submission, not the second submission, because when there is again dialogue, further dialogue after the second submission, it makes the evaluation body irrelevant in the process. At the same time, as we encourage that there is dialogue, it should be meaningful dialogue, not where second chance is given again we squander it. Then the evaluation board would be relevant. So we observe as Zambia that the mechanism proposed is a good one, just to be looked at it so that it's a good one and it works well. Thank you, Chair.
Cyprus.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous appuyons aussi la proposition exceptionnelle du secrétariat, car nous avons dit qu'à la session de la Addis Abeba, nous avons créé un groupe de travail pour travailler spécialement sur le dialogue. Pendant 2 ans, malheureusement, nous n'avons pas travaillé que sur le dialogue parce que d'autres thèmes se sont rajoutés. Et malheureusement, il n'est pas abouti ce dialogue. Et aujourd'hui, à cette session, on voit vraiment qu'on a besoin de dialogue. C'est pour ça qu'on accepte cette proposition, en espérant que pour les prochains examens des dossiers, il y aura le dialogue avant d'arriver à la décision du comité. Merci.
Japan, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I listened to the discussion of my colleagues very carefully, and had the impression that actually the reflection process is already started. And I understand the need of the creative approach, given the issues that we are facing, to implement this convention in a manner satisfactory to all the stakeholders. And so I appreciate the proposal by the Secretariat. But at the same time, as you mentioned, this is exceptional measures, and there's certain irregularity and also ambiguity in its legality. And so normally, exceptional measures is justified only to the extent minimum necessary. And so this application scope of this measure should also be limited to the extent necessary. And there's some related difference in the proposed amendment. And you say that on an experimental basis and pending the reflection of the listing mechanisms. And so may I understand that these measures will be applied only to the files default to this session. In other words, this will not establish the precedence and will not be applied to the file to be presented in the next session. and forth. And second, it seems to me that this wording suggests that this might continue, I'm afraid, by the time that reflection will reach some conclusion. And according to the standing calendar, reflection can only conclude in 2022. And that's my concern. And in my view, second criteria necessary for this sort of irregular or exceptional measures is actually legal ambiguity should be corrected as soon as possible. And so I think it is essential that we seek for the endorsement of the next GA, that is June 2020. We cannot wait for 2022. So I think we should make this one very clear. Once again, I think that we should limit the application scope only to the files of default to this session. 2, we have to seek for the endorsement, and we have to correct the irregular conditions of the legality at the time of the next General Assembly. And 3, I suggest, if that is the case, I would rather discuss this thing later, but we should have a two-step approach in the reflection process. And the first step should be next GA, and we should agree on the early harvest package, including this matter. And then we should complete the process in 2022 as a second step. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Je demande au Sénégal maintenant
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Sénégal également soutient pleinement la proposition expérimentale du secrétariat qui, à notre sens, va dans la bonne direction. C'est un premier pas, même si, évidemment, notre souhait, c'est qu'il y ait un dialogue sincère en amont entre l'organe d'évaluation et l'État soumissionnaire. L'objectif étant de permettre à l'État soumissionnaire de réussir, n'est-ce pas, dans son dossier. L'organe d'évaluation n'est pas seulement ici pour sanctionner, mais également un rôle pédagogique et peut-être d'accompagnement. Il doit avoir ce rôle-là également, d'où la nécessité de ce dialogue en amont, avant que la décision ne soit prise. Donc, mais je pense que c'est un processus et que ce premier pas est important. C'est pourquoi nous le soutenons et nous félicitons le secrétariat pour ce document. Merci.
Sri Lanka, please.
Thank you, Chairperson, for giving this opportunity. And thank you also the Secretariat for preparing this proposal. Sri Lanka believes that the dialogue mechanism will benefit a large number of state parties as an educational process in preparing these files. Therefore, Sri Lanka supports the proposal. Thank you.
Lebanon, please.
Thank you, Chairperson, and I would like to thank the Secretariat for the proposal. I'll be very brief because I don't want to echo all what was said. Lebanon do support the proposal, and we think it's a good start for moving towards the dialogue that we all think is necessary. Thank you.
Austria, please. Armini.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Not to take too long, as expressed at the Bureau, we would like to support this initiative and also to commend Secretariat for finding the way forward. Thank you very much.
Kuwait.
Thank you, sir. We as well would like to thank you for your work, and we would like to support. Thank you.
Azerbaijan, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We as well join the other delegates and would like to support the mechanism. Thank you very much.
Yes. I understand that if there is no other observer, sorry, Palestine, we should go for again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I thank all our colleagues who are supporting the proposal of the Secretariat and their openness for this. But some of our colleagues raised concern that we share, which is that first, they don't want to see this experimental thing coming back next year. And in order to avoid this and to be sure, and since we are in an experimental phase, so I would like to reiterate my proposal. So now we have a very large, broad support for the proposal of the Secretariat. And since for the next session, we can make also this dialogue mechanism for the next files to come to the committee. As I explained it, I'll say it again, je vais l'expliquer cette fois en français, c'est-à-dire pour faire comme notre collègue de Sénégal qui a insisté, notre collègue de Philippines et bien d'autres qui ont dit que ce mécanisme doit être en amont et non pas en aval. Et pour que ça soit en amont, c'est-à-dire à la deuxième réunion de l'organe d'évaluation en juin, après avoir les recommandations sur tous les critères, pour les critères qui ne sont pas satisfaits dans leur opinion, ils adressent une question à l'État partie concerné. Et l'État partie répond en mois d'août dans les deux langues et l'organe d'évaluation en septembre revoit ces réponses. S'ils sont satisfaits, ils changent leurs recommandations. S'ils ne sont pas satisfaits, ils gardent la recommandation. Et ça, c'est un mécanisme de dialogue en amont. Et je pense que c'est ça le sentiment de nos collègues qui ont demandé que ça soit en amont. Est-ce qu'on peut, parce que maintenant la proposition du secrétariat, d'après ce que j'ai vu, c'est quasiment adopté. Maintenant, discutons cette deuxième proposition. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
May I, at this juncture, try to... I have got a few members who are observers wishes to take the floor. I see Algeria, Belgium, Germany. Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm not against giving the floor to the observers. They should give their opinion. We need their opinion. But we have a second proposal meanwhile. Let's the members of the committee give their opinion on this second phase first, and then we will listen to observers on the two proposals. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No. I wish to summarize where we have reached now. Jamaica support. I've seen that there are a few questions which have been raised by Japan and China. There is generally a feeling that there is a need for us to try to review the evaluation mechanism and so on. But there have been a few questions raised by China, 3 questions in fact, and also these have been taken to some extent by Japan regarding the legal ambiguity and also the scope to which this resolution should cover. And I believe that these are very pertinent issues. I take it that there is quasi-unanimity among the committee members that there is a need for it being an upstream consultation, and that this has been an issue which has been raised for quite some time, and there is, in fact, a wish that we should go on this line. But while listening to all the committee members, and you will recall that when the Secretary came with a proposal yesterday. It was yesterday. The stated that it is going to be a truly experimental nature, but also that there was a proviso that the community would need to acknowledge responsibility for this process until the matter is brought for discussion at the next session of the General Assembly in 2020. And we have here Japan and China, who in fact raise those very pertinent issues. And as you know, we are in a position where we have been mandated by the General Assembly, and whatever the committee does, it is through mandate of the General Assembly. And I wish that to hear committee members on the issues raised by China and Japan regarding these two very pertinent questions, because we are an emanation of the General Assembly, and this is, for me, something very pertinent and which goes to the root of what we are doing today. And this is where I wish that to hear committee members first. Yes, Japan.
Thank you very much, Chair. And your summary is very precise and concise and right in point. And generally, we are ready to support this proposal if, those 2 points I raised, that is the scope of the application and also settlement of, ambiguity in its legality at the earliest possible timing, that is next to GA in 2020. And if these points are properly addressed in the language of the decision, we are ready to support this.
Yes, Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to thank Ambassador of Japan for his clear position. It is absolutely understandable, and we share, all of us, we share the concerns raised by China also, and we understand that this is an exception, which means it doesn't comply with the provisions of the operational guidelines. We know that, but it is experimental and it is exceptional. So I think that the operational guidelines, everybody knows, it is the General Assembly who adopts it, but nevertheless, it's not the Holy Bible. There could be exceptions. So I think at this stage, and after hearing all the members supporting this mechanism, and that's why I proposed the second phase, in order not to reiterate this procedure, downstream procedure again. In any case, after having experimented these two procedures, we will come back, of course, to the General Assembly, and of course we will be accountable in front of the General Assembly. I don't think that the General Assembly would be absolutely opposed, especially if we will have positive outcome of these two procedures. And this will give us also the possibility to reflect thoroughly on this mechanism if needed. And the best thing would be to adopt the amendments to the operational guidelines as mentioned by our colleague from Japan at the next General Assembly, since we will have a practical experiment and we will know what are the positive things in there and what is negative to be corrected. And following this, maybe at the next session of the General Assembly, we can amend and go forward. And if it wasn't sufficient, then we will have time and we will wait the following General Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Austria.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I did not participate before, so I also want to stress that the discussion we had the last days have shown there is a need for dialogue and reflection on our listing mechanism, which Austria fully supports, as I've mentioned before. And yes, I share the questions that have been raised, and the ones that concern me the most are if this is going beyond the functions of the committee as is specified in Article 7, which has not been addressed before, I think. And also what are the implications for the evaluation body in terms of workload and organization? And I think you mentioned that we would also hear their opinion on this. And if we have the mandate as the committee to assign these additional tasks, so we could also ask for an extraordinary session of the General Assembly because Article 4.2 offers this opportunity, I think. So what I want to say is that also for us, if this is within the legal framework, we can support this, but I believe we need to make sure that our decision is legitimate, because I think it would be very frustrating, and particularly for the communities concerned, if we create now a false expectation, which then has to be frustrated at a later stage. And actually I would like to know if this can also happen, that we decide something now that has to be, I don't know, kind of changed again, because, yeah, it's not a possible decision. So I just would like to make really sure that this is legitimate. Thank you.
Djibouti voudrait prendre la parole.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je partage les mêmes préoccupations que la délégation qui m'a précédé, je crois que c'est l'Austria, sur la légitimité de cette démarche que nous sommes en train de prendre. Ma question fondamentale est la suivante. Si nous prenons cette phase expérimentale jusqu'à la prochaine Assemblée générale, nous allons, et qu'un autre problème similaire ou bien une situation similaire se présente lors de la 14e session du comité intergouvernemental, est-ce que nous n'aurons pas créé un antécédent et qu'on va toujours prolonger cette phase expérimentale jusqu'à la prochaine Assemblée générale? Je vous remercie.
Merci, Djibouti. Et je vois qu'il y a l'Algérie, la Belgique, Switzerland, Estonie, Greece, Belgium, Hongrie, Niger, Latvia, qui voudraient aussi intervenir à ce stade.
Germany.
Yes. Let me start with Algeria.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci de donner la parole aux observateurs et surtout d'avoir indiqué à juste titre que le comité aussi agissait sur mandat de l'Assemblée générale. Donc, sur ce type de décision, tous les États membres doivent donner leurs avis et surtout être le mieux informés. Concernant la question du dialogue, nous avons été l'une des premières délégations lors de notre réunion à Addis Abeba à appeler à ce dialogue. Nous le souhaitons de tous nos voeux, mais nous sommes également attachés aux règles et surtout à cette convention. L'Algérie, premier signataire de la convention, a plus d'une fois montré son engagement et à ce comité, mais également à la convention. Nous avons présidé le comité de rédaction de la convention, nous avons abrité le premier comité. C'est pour ça que cette convention est extrêmement chère à notre cœur. Notre délégation est en faveur d'encourager les inscriptions, mais est en faveur donc des inscriptions et aussi du dialogue, mais pas à n'importe quel coût. L'intégrité de la convention, du comité et de l'organe d'évaluation doivent être préservées. Le secrétariat qui mène un travail d'arrache-pied pour faire appliquer nos décisions ne doit pas être mis dans une situation difficile, voire impossible. Et surtout, le plus important pour nous, c'est le respect des procédures que nous avons établies nous-mêmes. Les procédures doivent prévaloir, Monsieur le Président. L'Assemblée générale a élu les honorables membres du comité avec une délégation de pouvoir très claire. Il faut en tenir compte. Et permettez-moi, Monsieur le Président, de dire un mot en ma qualité de coprésident du groupe de travail ad hoc. Je n'ai pas rencontré une seule personne durant les discussions que nous avons menées pendant près d'un an avec les différents États membres qui soient contre le dialogue. Mais beaucoup étaient conscients de son inévitabilité. Mais si le dialogue doit se faire, il doit se faire dans les règles. Il doit être adopté de manière formelle, claire et surtout légale. Et surtout, il ne doit pas servir, si vous me permettez l'expression, de l'eau de consolation, mais plutôt d'être un outil d'amélioration du système et de facilitation du travail du comité. C'est pour ça qu'il faut être très vigilant sur la manière dont il doit être adopté. Nous ne sommes pas contre le dialogue, mais nous sommes pour un dialogue qui soit dans les règles. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Algeria. Il y a Switzerland also wishes to intervene. Switzerland, please.
Monsieur le Président, chers membres du comité, chers collègues, merci de nous donner la parole. Notre délégation suit les discussions avec beaucoup d'intérêt, mais aussi une certaine perplexité, teintée de préoccupation, qui fait écho à ce qu'ont exprimé plusieurs délégations avant moi. Nous comprenons tout l'intérêt qu'il y a à établir un mécanisme de dialogue entre l'organe d'évaluation et les États soumissionnaires, et nous appuyons ces efforts. Toutefois, l'établissement d'un nouveau système qui n'est pas prévu par les directives opérationnelles approuvées par l'Assemblée générale, même sur une base expérimentale, soulève des questions qui doivent être sérieusement considérées. Et pour cette raison, en écho à ce qui a été demandé par d'autres délégations, nous souhaiterions demander au conseiller juridique si cette proposition ne va pas au-delà des attributions du comité telles que spécifiées par l'article 7, lettre E de la Convention, approuvée par l'Assemblée générale. En d'autres termes, la proposition est-elle couverte par cet article, à la fois formellement et dans un esprit de respect des prérogatives de l'Assemblée générale? Je vous remercie.
Belgium, please. Belgique.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. As a member of the General Assembly, we were very surprised by the proposal of the so-called preliminary dialogue with immediate effect. We agree that the introduction of a mechanism of dialogue would be useful, but would like to see this approved first by the General Assembly. The same is true for any other creative solutions that might come up later. In any case, experience sharing and capacity building for making excellent nomination files would always be the best solution. First, we question the urgency of this problem. We could understand it in the case of a nomination file for the urgent safeguarding list, Article 17, if there would be a life-threatening urgency, but this experiment is triggered by a nomination file for the representative list. So where is the urgency that motivates not following the normal procedure and submitting it first to the General Assembly? As a member of the General Assembly, we would like to know the opinion of the legal advisor of UNESCO, because in practice this decision suspends Operational Directive 36 that explicitly refers to the following cycle. Is it possible for an Intergovernmental Committee to suspend one or more formal operational directives approved by the General Assembly on a so-called experimental basis, in particular in the middle of a procedure? We did not find any such possibility mentioned in the rules of procedure for the Intergovernmental Committee. As it might influence a change in several operation directives approved by the General Assembly, wouldn't it be better, if it's so urgent, to mobilize Article 4, Para 2 of the Convention to convene an extraordinary General Assembly? Or is it not that urgent? So fine-tuning the procedure is useful. A mechanism of dialogue would be welcome after following due procedure and after approval by the General Assembly. I thank you.
Thank you, Belgium. Before moving to the next speaker, I wish that the legal advisor joins us here, and I request the Secretariat to refer to the legal advisor to the two articles that has been raised by Belgium and also, I believe, Switzerland mention a specific article so that we can subsequently have the views of the legal advisor. May I now invite Estonia to share with us its views.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. While Estonia understands the goodwill that has motivated this proposal, Estonian delegation strongly shares the opinion that the committee simply cannot bend the rules of operational guidelines that have been established by the General Assembly. That's why we join the request that the legal advisor could explain how this proposal can be in line with paragraph 36 and paragraph 54 of operational guidelines. We also know that the open-ended working group has reflected on the dialogue mechanisms for a long time, and many good ideas have been put forward, but the best and the most viable solution has not been found yet. It takes time, and therefore rushing into this kind of experiment certainly is not a good way forward, we believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greece.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. And I think this is one of the most interesting intergovernmental committees I've ever attended. It is very interesting to hear all these views. Nevertheless, without leaving aside the legal issues raised and spelled out by Belgium, Switzerland, and Estonia, we think that this experimental procedure, this pilot process, as you might call it, is very useful. If we can go according to the rules we have already ourselves established in previous cycles, we would be very in favor of this procedure, because we believe that this could be a valid way to foster real compliance with the requirements of the criteria for inscription, particularly on the representative list. What we have now in many cases is a verbal compliance, and we know very well that the decisions, we have seen many decisions of the committee that are in quite different vein compared to what the evaluation body recommendations were, and what we have in these decisions is a verbal compliance, not a real compliance to the spirit and the criteria that we're discussing each time. The dialogue that we need very much on this, must be structured, and we think that this procedure can be a real way, and for a transparent dialogue, meaning that we all know what has been mentioned by the evaluation body and what is expected by the submitting state. That is a reason that this procedure, if the legal issues are not grave, are not contrary, is a good way forward. Furthermore, I would like to echo the observations made by, and the concerns made by China, particularly on criterion 2. We believe that this is the moment of consciousness on the part of the submitting states and communities, and the true compliance to the spirit of the convention can be expressed if criterion 2 is met accordingly. And furthermore, allow me to raise an issue that has not been raised yet, and that has been in my mind quite some time now. When we examine compliance to criterion 5, R5 or U5 on the two lists, we require to receive evidence or declaration at least that the element is not just being inscribed in an inventory, but that the inventory is regularly updated as well. And this is good. Just as the ICH elements are dynamic and involving cultural expressions, the inventories should follow and reflect this evolution. However, after an element's inscription on the representative list, there is no such requirement, nor even a relevant provision. This discrepancy between the two rules may be put to rights, may be resolved in a sense when with the new periodic reporting mechanism, when this is established, and is put into implementations. But unless a further discussion on the matter takes place, I believe we still will be left with this contradiction unresolved. Maybe the Secretariat would deem it worthy to start some kind of reflection process on the issue, or it could be included on all this dialogue issue, because I'm saying this, I'm raising this thing about you know, the updating of the already inscribed elements, because we have many experiences where files have been inscribed and actually many of the sections of the files are not in true compliance with the convention. Allow me to say, I know it sounds really strong, but we all know here some at least, cases like that. Thank you very much.
Germany, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My intervention is going in the exactly same direction as Algeria, Belgium, Switzerland, Estonia, and Greece. We very much support any creative, pragmatic, or transparent approach for more dialogue, as we have discussed in the open-ended working group. But we would really very much like to hear the position of the legal advisor. How does the legal advisor feel about what he has said 2 days ago regarding Article 36 and 54 of the operational directives? Is it possible to practice this preliminary new dialogue even on an experimental base without a prior change of those 2 articles of the operational directives by the General Assembly? Thank you very much.
Hungary, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me join others in thanking Mauritius and you personally, Mr. Chair, for the generous hosting of this 13th session of the committee. Let me also express our appreciation for the work of the Secretariat in preparing this meeting and for the smooth conduct of business under your able and fair leadership, Mr. Chair. Hungary also believes that the issue of dialogue between the advisory body, between the evaluation body and the submitting states parties is indeed essential and important question for the future of this convention. As members of the committee, Hungary has also felt the urgent need for this dialogue. However, Mr. Chair, we would also like to express our concern regarding the procedure the committee seems to follow on this issue. We would like to express our agreement to the points raised by several delegations, including China, Japan, Algeria, Belgium, Greece, and Germany. Indeed, the implications are far-reaching, and this DR raises legal and procedural issues, and it is, in our view, also a question of governance. We would like to therefore inquire, if possible, whether the committee has the power to take this decision and thus to overrule a decision previously taken by the General Assembly. The examination of files and the timetable are governed under the operational directives that are adopted in turn by the General Assembly. Given these circumstances, the question is whether the committee has the right, even on an exceptional basis, to override these positions of the operational directives. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Hungary. May I just humbly request all observers to be very short in their intervention, and request Niger.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, distingué invité. Le Niger intervient parce que, dans un premier temps, nous prenons en compte que la Convention de 2003 est une convention dynamique qui a donc une certaine démarche, donc qui met de la rigueur dans sa démarche. Et nous intervenons également parce que l'organe d'évaluation applique donc les textes normatifs et réglementaires de cette convention. Donc il donne son avis, statue et ensuite envoie ou transmet au secrétariat général donc l'ensemble de ces observations. Et en ce qui concerne le mécanisme de dialogue, oui, le Niger est pour le mécanisme de dialogue, mais ce mécanisme doit se faire en amont. Et également un autre mais, il doit être validé dans un cadre de réflexion contenu donc dans ce qu'on appelle les directives opérationnelles et essayer de soumettre ça au niveau de l'Assemblée générale pour valider avant d'appliquer. Voilà la position du Niger et je vous remercie une fois de plus, Monsieur le Président, chers participants. Donc, c'est ça le point de vue du Niger. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, le Niger. Latvia.
Dear Chairperson, as this is the first time Latvia takes the floor, Latvian delegation would like to express its appreciation of the hospitality of Mauritius and your personal commitment to a sound work of the committee. Referring to the discussions of the committee while examining item 10B during this session, and the consideration given to the possible way to proceed with nominations that have been referred, and also while understanding the function and commitment of the UNESCO Secretariat to assist the committee in its work and decision-making, Latvia shares the concerns raised by several delegations of states parties. According to the Article 7 of the Convention, one of the functions of the committee is to prepare and submit to the General Assembly for approval operational directives for the implementation of the Convention. The committee, however, does not have the mandate neither to amend the directives nor to suspend their application. As it has been already reminded by previous speakers, according to the paragraph 36 of the operational directives as decided by the General Assembly, nominations, proposals, or requests that the committee decides not to inscribe, select, or approve, or to refer to the submitting states for additional information may be resubmitted to the committee for examination during a following cycle after having been updated and supplemented. And paragraphs 54 to 56 provide the timetable of respective procedures. Should the committee wish to amend the operational directives, it may prepare and submit to the General Assembly such amendments for approval. This would be expected even for a procedure on experimental basis, as has been the case, for instance, regarding the present paragraph 27 of the directives, where it is stipulated that this paragraph has been adopted on an experimental basis. As a state party to the Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage, and thus member of the General Assembly of the states parties, Latvia relies that the operational directives would be duly respected by the committee. Thank you.
Le Maroc.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, de nous donner la parole. Nous comprenons parfaitement la finalité de la proposition qui est soumise au comité. Néanmoins, il nous semble difficile d'en saisir la portée, tant la procédure de mise en œuvre semble difficile. Les questions qui ont été posées par certains membres du comité et les collègues qui nous ont précédés parmi les délégations d'observateurs nous semblent pertinentes. La référence a été dûment faite aux articles et aux paragraphes pertinents de la Convention et des directives opérationnelles, et il est donc inutile de les répéter. Il n'en demeure pas moins que la procédure proposée est susceptible, si elle était adoptée, d'avoir des implications à la fois politiques, juridiques et pratiques dont il convient de mesurer toute l'ampleur avant d'aller plus avant. Une dernière question est relative au poids des mots. On parle de procédure expérimentale ou sur une base expérimentale. Cela suppose que le processus continue, on continue à expérimenter jusqu'à ce qu'on prouve que l'expérience est concluante ou pas. On peut aussi parler de procédure exceptionnelle. Et je ne sais pas quelle est l'approche qui est proposée ici. Est-ce que c'est une procédure expérimentale qui va durer dans le temps, ou est-ce que c'est quelque chose qu'on expérimente sur une base exceptionnelle et qui ne fera pas jurisprudence par la suite, étant donné que l'Assemblée générale devra se prononcer sur la marche à suivre. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci, le Maroc. Turkey, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think we all agree in this room on the need for a dialogue during the evaluation process. And we also understand the need of having a creative approach to solve the issue before us. And we appreciate the efforts of the Secretariat to that end. However, we should not have any doubts before adapting any exceptional measures. We should avoid creating precedents that would go against our own legal framework. We should seek endorsement of General Assembly before adopting any such measures that, to our understanding, goes beyond the mandate of this committee. Therefore, we would like to hear the legal advisor on this issue. And if the committee considers that the case before us needs urgent consideration, I think I heard from my colleague from Austria the possibility of holding an extraordinary session of the General Assembly. That option could also be explored to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Turkey. Norway?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Norwegian delegation agreed there is several concerns regarding this suggested procedure. So we would also like to hear more clarifications on the matter. As several other countries have questions already, what are the implications of this amendment for the evaluation body and for the Secretariat in terms of workload, organization, and mandate? Thank you.
Thank you, Norway. Sweden?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Sweden agrees with several of the observer states that have taken the floor: Algeria, Nigeria, Belgium, Morocco, Hungary, Estonia, Turkey, just to mention a few. We have not really heard convincing arguments for the urgency of this proposed suggestion on an experimental basis. And while we, of course, welcome the importance of improving dialogue, and we would really like to continue being a part of that discussion, we believe that in order for it to be a truly legitimate process, it does need to go through the General Assembly. And we would be really interested to hearing the view of the legal advisor on all the questions that have been posed. Thank you.
Belize?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make the observation that the proposal put forward by the Secretariat, in fact, is an opportunity to uphold the spirit of the Convention, which is centered on communities. What is being proposed is actually an opportunity to experiment or test a procedure within the timelines of the Convention itself, the operational directives for the reviewing of files themselves, and to allow for dialogue in a timely manner. I've heard the arguments for going to the General Assembly, and in fact, the purpose of, in my view, the purpose of conducting an experiment is so that you can inform, you have information that you can use going forward. So this is actually an opportunity to use this, especially if it's going to be used just for the files that are being referred for this particular cycle. And it's an opportunity for the Secretariat and the evaluation body to test to see if this in fact can work. I understand that the operational directives provide legal parameters, but that is law in a sense for the Convention. But the law comes out of philosophy, philosophical approaches. You go, on one hand, you can go to the General Assembly, and then the General Assembly gives you a mandate to act. And on the other hand, you can go to the work that is actually being done, and then have that inform what happens at the General Assembly. And I think it's just a matter of philosophy. Because it is the spirit of the Convention and the communities that are involved, then in my view, in the view of Belize, we support the proposal of the Secretariat. And following up on the view of Japan, if it refers only to the files in this cycle, then I think that is something that is valid and should be supported. Just like countries, the Convention laws exist and they evolve, situations evolve, and this dialogue has been going on for some time. and it will, there is no perfect system, and because the system isn't perfect, it's an opportunity to test it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a violation of the spirit, and in fact, it upholds the spirit of the convention with respect to giving communities visibility. Here we think of files, but when communities are at home waiting, that's a whole other matter, right? So it's just something to consider, and we would endorse the proposal set forth by the Secretariat.
Thank you, Belize. I'm going to hear two more members. I believe that the arguments which are being raised are more or less now coming back again. And I have Mexico and Argentina. I'll give the floor to these two states, and then we'll have the views of the Legal Secretary on this very pertinent issue. Mexico.
Gracias, señor presidente. Nuestra delegación quisiera solamente reiterar, hacer un énfasis que es absolutamente necesario que revisemos este punto que la Secretaría pone a debate en este momento sobre la evolución de algunos puntos de procedimiento en la intervención de los órganos evaluadores. Y esto lo único que traduce esta intervención de casi todos los miembros, no solo del comité, sino de los miembros que estamos aquí presentes en la sala, significa que hay un grado de frustración en algunas de las tomas de decisión que se han hecho aquí y que tienen absolutamente que corregirse. Creo que estamos en todo nuestro derecho de revisar a fondo aquello que ha causado esta inquietud, y nos parece absolutamente que es necesario que el legal advisor, que el experto jurídico nos apoye en darnos una guía más precisa para ver cómo vamos a ir avanzando en esta importantísima. Yo creo que este es uno de los instrumentos más importantes que la UNESCO ha madurado en los últimos 15 años y que estamos obligados a perfeccionar en la medida de lo posible como un concierto de naciones que estamos interesados en salvaguardar el patrimonio inmaterial de la humanidad. Gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. And may I now give the floor to Argentina?
Gracias, señor presidente. Quería recordarnos a todos que estamos en esta reunión para salvaguardar el patrimonio inmaterial de nuestros pueblos, de todos los pueblos del mundo y sus culturas. Pero aquí estamos solamente unos pocos observadores, delegaciones de una sola persona en muchos casos, porque no tenemos los medios para llegar y defendernos. Escuchamos muchísimos observadores que intervinieron y da la impresión de que hay mucha preocupación por exactamente las mismas cosas que leyeron en sus ordenadores de última generación. Quiero llamar la atención que estos observadores pertenecen solo a un grupo regional con algunas pocas excepciones. Entonces, esto que se escucha en esta sala, este consenso parece absoluto de los observadores, puede ser que represente solo a una región del planeta y no a los pueblos que nosotros queremos defender. Estamos aquí reunidos porque hay un expediente abierto desde hace 3 días, que es el nuestro, es el del chamamé, el del pueblo correntino, que tiene 1 millón de habitantes, casi la misma población que el país que nos está albergando ahora. Y quisimos dar respuestas, pero no pudimos darlas. ¿Por qué? porque en la pausa del mediodía no se nos permitió volver a intervenir, ajustar un poco las preguntas, teníamos todas las respuestas, las tenemos y están en el expediente. Por eso estamos aquí tratando de encontrar una solución para un expediente donde todo está en forma electrónica. La opinión jurídica es muy importante, pero yo también fui consejero jurídico de mi propio país, de mi propio ministerio. La forma en que se genera una pregunta es muy importante, es solo una opinión. Primero, esto el comité lo debe tener en cuenta, es una opinión, no es una obligación. Y además, ¿cómo formulemos la pregunta? La pregunta es, ¿está expresamente prohibido este mecanismo? Porque si preguntamos si está permitido, en casi ningún instrumento jurídico de la UNESCO está permitido. Sin embargo, se aplican excepciones todo el tiempo y los hemos aplicado en esta misma sesión con gran alegría, por ejemplo, para recibir la inscripción de Corea, que nos parece, de las dos Coreas, que nos parece excelente. Esta excepción es la que estamos pidiendo. Queremos más diálogo, como todos, y queremos que se nos dé la oportunidad a los pueblos de decir por qué la información no se puso en el casillero adecuado. Ahí está la información y no necesitamos un mes para darle la respuesta al órgano evaluador. Necesitamos solo 15 minutos en esta sesión y podríamos hacerlo. Digo esto porque luego se va a tratar el expediente de la Argentina y no vamos a tener la oportunidad de hablar. Es muy importante, cuando era estudiante escuché sobre una teoría económica que la realidad estaba equivocada porque no se adaptaba a la teoría. Estamos haciendo eso nosotros. La realidad está equivocada porque no se aceptan nuestras reglas del juego, que son salvaguardar el patrimonio inmaterial de los pueblos. Por eso queremos esta excepción experimental para fomentar el diálogo y para ver qué pasa si le dan un mes a los proponentes para decir dónde estaba la información. Está en un anexo del expediente que nos dijeron aquí que no lo vieron y no lo quieren ver. Es una página, en el caso nuestro, que se llama chamameargentina.org, la podemos ver ahora si lo quieren. Todo lo que nos pide el órgano evaluador está ahí. Todo, absolutamente todo, y los invito, señores miembros de este comité, a verlo ahora si quieren. Podemos guiarlos para que vean la totalidad de lo que nos demandan está ahí. Por eso es que queremos esta excepción. Por eso es que queremos un mecanismo experimental de diálogo que no tuvo lugar antes, lamentablemente, para que ustedes puedan ver que esta información está ahí, de acuerdo a lo que nos pide la UNESCO, de acuerdo al espíritu de la UNESCO, que es usar las nuevas tecnologías, las TICs, que les enseñamos a nuestros pueblos originarios a usarlos, para que pudieran llenar estos formularios que nosotros, los burócratas, no somos capaces de clarificar para países, para comunidades que no hablan ni inglés ni francés. Hablan guaraní en este caso, que es la lengua oficial del pueblo que nosotros venimos a defender con el chamamé. Muchas gracias, señor presidente, y espero que el comité tenga la libertad de criterio para no dejarse guiar por la mayoría, que no siempre la mayoría muestra la realidad. La mayoría es que en esta sala hay gente que pudo venir porque tuvo los medios para llegar hasta Mauricio. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Argentina. And I'm glad that we heard all the committee members and also a few observers who expressed themselves. And at this juncture, perhaps it's good that we sum up the issues. There is a general consensus that there need to be dialogue and that there should be dialogue during the process, before and at the time that the nominations are considered by the committee. This is more or less the consensus among everybody for the need of dialogue. We should be before. The issue now is, while considering a particular file, we wanted to see how we could reconsider this file earlier than what had been the procedure. We asked for some recommendation from the Secretariat, and we had them. At the level of the committee members, there has been, most committee members wanted that we go in the line as proposed by the Secretariat. And there were a few members, China, Japan, Djibouti, and Austria, questioned the legality of what were being proposed and wanted to be reassured, while Austria went a bit further and stated that the recourse is to have an extraordinary meeting of the General Assembly to consider this issue, which is very pertinent to everybody. And we have heard also the various observers who expressed themselves, and this is why I gave latitude to all state parties to express their views. And what emerges from that is that all committee members wishes that dialogue should prevail. And there has been generally various members who wish to know and to be reassured by the legal advisor whether the committee members have this mandate to act the way it wishes. And there were also a few members who raised the issue whether there is any urgency which could, according to them, be a justification to have an exceptional circumstances before the General Assembly decides on how to provide a mechanism of dialogue. This is where I try to summarize the whole that has been happening since more than an hour now. I see China wishes to intervene, and I wish to inquire from China whether China wishes to intervene before the legal advisor. Yes, I believe they wish to intervene before. In that case, I'll give China the floor, and then we'll see the response from the legal advisor. China, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you also for your summary for the debates. I'm sorry for asking the floor again, because we just want to make our position clear. China do feel the strong need for the dialogue mechanism, and we appreciate very much for the Secretariat for its creative approach. And we have no objection to the idea to set up a dialogue mechanism. And also, we do agree to include the upstream dialogue into the evaluation process. While regarding to the legitimacy issue, we do need the contribution of the legal advisor to lead us out of the ambiguity. Should the committee be completely assured of the right to adopt this proposal, then we are happy to go with it. Thank you. Oh, by the way, we do not see two proposals. We only see the proposal by the Secretariat. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, China. Is any other committee member wishes to take the floor to clarify any issue, or if there have been any pertinent issue which I missed while making a very brief summary. You will excuse me because it was done just out of memory. I see Palestine wishes to intervene.
It will be very brief since the legal advisor is here and we will listen to him. I would like also to address one question, precise question to him. We heard from some colleagues saying, talking about the legitimacy, whether it is legitimate or not. I think that there is a difference between legitimate and legal. And I think if we take such a decision, it will be legitimate, but maybe it wouldn't be legal. Let Mr. Legal Advisor advise. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
May I also just add up something? There was also a point made that whether it is, in case it is not expressly prohibited, whether it is allowable. This also has been raised. Thank you, Palestine. May I now request the legal advisor to clarify all these issues for us, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you also for summarizing all the points that have been raised. Legality, legitimacy. Does the committee have the mandate to take this course of action and to engage into this experimental procedure? I will try and respond by giving some overarching comments, which I find very important. This procedure is not compliant with the operational directives, or at least not fully. And it would require a deviation from the operational directives for which the committee does not have the authority. And my advice in this regard is really no different than the advice I provided on Tuesday when I spoke on this matter. Allow me to recall, and this has already been mentioned in the floor, that based on Article 7E of the Convention, the committee's function and authority with regard to operational directives is limited to preparing and submitting to the GA for approval operational directives for the implementation of this convention. In other words, the operational directives constitute the legal boundaries within which the committee can operate as approved by the General Assembly. Now, the operational directives do not allow the committee to either suspend or otherwise deviate from the provisions contained in the operational directives. It follows that procedures departing from the operational directives would remain the prerogative of the General Assembly, unless, of course, the General Assembly delegates the committee to do so, which is not the case at hand. At least two provisions of the operational directives would require a derogation. Paragraphs 36 and 54, which were mentioned on Tuesday. Paragraph 36 provides that referred nominations may be resubmitted for examination during the following cycle. And paragraph 54 provides a timeline of the cycle, which spans almost 2 years and not one. Because the cycle identified by the operational directives constitutes an integral part of the operational directives, the committee does not have the authority to set a different cycle for resubmission of referred nominations. A question arose as to whether this procedure would constitute a change to the operational directives. I understand that this procedure would apply on an experimental basis and for a limited period of time. However, the crux of the matter is quite different, as the committee does not have the required authority for a temporary derogation either. The main legal consequence of adopting such a procedure, albeit on a temporary or experimental basis, would be that the committee would be acting beyond its mandate. If the committee is considering making changes to the referral mechanism included in the cycle, the proper way of doing it would be by proposing amendments to the operational directives to the General Assembly for its approval, in line with Article 7E of the Convention, unless, of course, the General Assembly convenes an extraordinary meeting and delegates the committee to do so for the purpose of this other proposed procedure. I believe this should respond to the various queries. Now, a number of other provisions of the operational directives may be called into question in light of what I said concerning the lack of authority of the committee. Any discussion on any of the provision would be moot, I believe. Regarding the issue on legality and legitimacy, I don't think that given the lack of authority of the committee, it would be a discussion that would abate the legal concerns that I flagged. And unless there are any other questions to which I stand ready to respond, this is the advice that I can offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Legal Advisor. I wish now, of course, to hear any member from the committee. And I wish to open the floor for us to be able to take an informed decision in the light of the observation, in the light of what we wish to, how we wish to proceed, and how we can try to see pending the General Assembly, what are the possibilities that we have to deal with the matter at hand. Thank you. Yes, Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, the opinion of the legal advisor was really expected. We understand his position and it was very clear. Now, could we listen again to, after having listened to the legal advisor, could we listen again to the Secretariat and maybe the evaluation body? Thank you, Mr. Chair, in order to take an appropriate decision afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Palestine. Secretary, yes?
As a Secretariat, I don't really have much to say except to say that we were asked to find creative solutions, and this was as far as we could go with the creativity. Thank you.
Mr. Omare, the chairperson of the evaluation body.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. As you all know, the evaluation body works under the terms of reference given by the committee, and we can't go beyond what we are supposed to do. Issues of legal, we have no mandate to comment about, but we work under the terms and conditions that you give us, our terms of reference. That is how we operate under the mechanisms that we are given. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omare. Yes. Yes, Mr. Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'm sorry to take the floor so oftenly, but it is really a very important issue, very complicated. We thank again the Secretariat for the efforts done in this regard. I know they spent all the night yesterday thinking about this, before yesterday, thinking about this creative procedure that the majority of the committee members was supporting, but unfortunately the majority of observers that are also state parties to the convention are not supporting, plus the explanation of the legal advisor. So I think that at this stage it would be a little bit more appropriate to withdraw this proposal, and maybe we can listen to other colleagues, and I think that there might be other way out for the dialogue mechanism at this stage. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Palestine. Does I take it that, yes, Poland?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Well, I think that in light of this explanation being given by legal advisor, in fact, we have no other choice. So I have to support the proposal done by Palestine. And we have to think about future better global mechanism for dialogue, which there could be possible area for reflection concerning these very difficult cases where are so much influential on the local communities, or generally communities bearers of the intangible culture. So I think that during the next session of the community, we would think about such instrument, and this instrument would be presented during the 2020 General Assembly meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Poland. I have Japan and Senegal.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And listening very carefully to the legal advisor, I agree to the suggestion of both Palestine and Poland. And we should withdraw this proposal at the moment. But at the same time, now we have had a very fruitful and important discussion about what reflection we should make on the dialogue procedures. And also, the heat of this discussion reflects the imminent nature of the reform. So I once again propose, while respecting the Secretariat's proposed calendar, I think this issue and other impending and imminent issues should be even tentatively addressed by the time of next board meeting in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Le Sénégal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je pense que, suite à l'éclairage du Conseil juridique, le bon sens commande effectivement de retirer ce projet et de trouver une autre solution qui respecte notre propre réglementation. Merci.
Merci, Sénégal. Yes, let us now hear the Secretariat on the way forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I think there have been very clear and very interesting discussions around the dialogue mechanism and the need for reform of the evaluation process. And this committee seems to have come to a kind of culmination of frustrations or issues that have started since 2 years ago in 2016 in Addis. And I think the Secretariat stands completely ready to support and work fully on an upstream dialogue process to the best of our extent possible, with a view to proposing at the next committee draft amendments to be proposed to the General Assembly in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. And I wish now to be advised how we proceed. I believe that we should proceed with the file of Argentina and then come back to the, yes, to the chapeau. Secretary, please, could you just Yes, we have also stopped consideration of the file for Albania. We'll complete Albania and then come back to Argentina. Thank you. And thank you everybody for having taken the opportunity to discuss such an important issue. Can we now have the draft report on Albania, where we had started to examine the draft report paragraph by paragraph, and there was some housekeeping exercise that had to be done to clear the wording. May I now ask the Secretariat to show the draft decision on the screens. Could we please have the first paragraphs first? From the beginning, please, so that we can have a full idea of where we have reached. Therefore, we had dealt with paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, which had been adopted. And let us have some time to read the paragraph 7. Therefore, decides to approve the international assistance request from Albania for community-based inventory of ICH in Albania, with a view to safeguarding and transmitting to future generations, and requests the submitting state to work with the Secretariat in order to present to the Bureau within a maximum time frame of 6 months a request revised in line with the recommendations of the evaluation body. Do we have it? Yes. Can I have the views of committee members? Lebanon? Since you have been the one proposing the amendment, could we have your views on that?
Okay, approved.
Okay. Do I take it that committee members have no objection to... I'm looking for active relative support. For Albania, for Lebanon, Kuwait,
they have our support, Mr.
Kazakhstan, Sri Lanka, I believe that I don't see any active support to paragraph 7. Poland also is supports. Armenia. I see now relative active support for paragraph 7. For paragraph 8, Yes, first of all, let us adopt paragraph 7 first. Okay, can we now move to adopt paragraph 8? In fact, paragraph 7 is a new paragraph which has been added and duly adopted, and paragraph 7 has now become paragraph 8. Do we have active support for the proposal of Lebanon?
So this is just a standard. This is just a standard.
Guide us. We are lost.
Standard clause. Sorry. Paragraph 8 is the standard clause on reporting on the implementation of the international assistance.
Do I take it that for paragraph 8, the same committee members who supported paragraph 7 are also giving the support to paragraph 8, which is just a standard? Yes, I see Kazakhstan, yes, Zambia, Sri Lanka, Armenia, Kazakhstan, Zambia. Okay, therefore we adopt.
Yeah, I just wanted to find, to question, let's say if by 6 months the Albania fails to submit a revised a document and they do not get the assistance, can we then maybe add on 8 or edit 8 and say once granted at the end? Just in case they don't get the assistance or they fail to submit within 6 months.
Secretary, please.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. This is language that was used, is being used as a precedent from a previous case where it was discussed. If we start changing it, we may not be in line with the precedent. So this was discussed the last time this happened, and the committee decided at the time there was a 6 months period given. So I just wish to inform that what we have done is taken the language from the previous case when it was granted. Thank you.
Yes, let us have this beautiful lady who is going to guide us now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I just wish to come back to the point raised by the distinguished delegate of Zambia. I believe she was talking about the issue of the reporting, the use of ICH form, and she was saying that in case Albania failed to work with the Secretariat to complete this international assistance request, this clause about report will not become necessary or relevant. Therefore, she wanted to add the word granted, once granted, so that just to make a coherence between the eventuality that it will be completed and then the need for the report. I believe the Secretariat is fine with this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that reply to the query of Zambia? And can we now adopt paragraph?
Because it is about resubmitting, so already it automatically disappears. You just confirm.
Yes. In fact, after we have adopted paragraph 7.
Now you have to first adopt 8. The Zambia is fine, so you adopt.
Yes. Now therefore we adopt paragraph 8.
And 9 and 10 automatically it's not necessary.
And I understand that paragraph 9 and 10 serves no purpose now. We are going now to adopt the document as a whole. I take it that we are now going to adopt draft decision 13-10D as amended. Is there any objection? I see none. Adopted.
Kindly give the floor to the submitting state.
May I kindly now give the floor to the submitting state for Albania. Albania, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I will be very, very brief, as I see that the previous item is still in the minds of everybody. So I wish to wholeheartedly thank Lebanon for the amendments proposed, Kazakhstan for its very active support, as well as all the other members of the committee for their understanding, trust and support. And I just want to reiterate that we commit to make the best use of the assistance provided, first and foremost with and in favor of the communities involved for the safeguarding of the intangible heritage in Albania. Of course, we will comply with the request that is in due time, that is just adopted, and we will work closely with the Secretary to reach an agreement on the issues identified prior to the commitments. And I thank you.
Thank you, Albania. Can we now go back to decision 10B1? Do I have the proper reference from memory? Is it 10B1? You will recall that we had already debated on that issue, and we were adopting the draft decision 13-10B1 paragraph after paragraph. We had already adopted paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and paragraph 4, paragraph 5, And at this juncture, yes, Guatemala, please.
Sí, señor presidente, muchas gracias. Nada más quisiera hacer un pronunciamiento en cuanto al tema de Argentina. Agradecemos también las opiniones que se dieron en torno a la propuesta experimental. Nada más quisiera solicitarle al comité, a la asamblea, en posteriores reuniones, creo yo que la presencia del abogado en la mesa principal, sí, la opinión es válida, pero no es vinculante en la toma de una decisión, ya que, digamos, no vemos la neutralidad en ese sentido, ¿verdad? Porque parece que él es parte de la comitiva de la Secretaría y, o sea, digo esto porque pareciera ser que hay cierta manipulación a nivel, eso es lo que yo logro observar en ese sentido, pero quisiéramos que en aras de la transparencia en las tomas de decisiones, pues para futuras ocasiones que sí haya más, digamos, participación y más, digamos, que el comité tenga más herramientas para tomar una buena decisión, ya que en este caso de Argentina, pues definitivamente no se va a poder esta ocasión, pero alentamos también al pueblo argentino a que siga cultivando esas buenas prácticas y fomentando el patrimonio inmaterial. Como digo, yo sí me identifico mucho con las comunidades y cuando no se da o no se acepta una petición de esta naturaleza, pues seguramente es una triste noticia para las comunidades, pero los invitamos a que sigan, digamos, apoyando y fomentando el patrimonio inmaterial. Para posteriores años, cuando se tenga la oportunidad de hacer propuestas, pues que sí apelamos siempre al diálogo previo a este tipo de asambleas. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Guatemala. After the statement from Guatemala, can we now proceed to consider the other paragraphs? Paragraph 5 have been adopted. Paragraph 5 is being withdrawn, I understand, after our okay. Therefore, are we adopting paragraph 6 as originally drafted? I see no objection. Adopted. And can we now move to adopt the document as a whole? Oh, we are still left with paragraph 7. Is paragraph 7 adopted? I see no objection. Adopted. Can we move now to adopt decision 13.10b with an amendment? I see no objection. Document 13.10b1 adopted as amended. May I now give the floor to Argentina?
Gracias, señor presidente. En nombre de 1 millón de correntinos que confían o confiaban en la UNESCO, les quiero decir que es la UNESCO la que se debe acercar a los pueblos para que los pueblos se acerquen a la UNESCO. Queremos agradecer muy especialmente el apoyo recibido por el secretario Tim Curtis en el desarrollo de este tema, que tanta energía y tanto tiempo nos llevó. Queremos decirles que convencimos a un pueblo completo, guaraní, para que se acercara a nuestra cultura. Y me refiero a la cultura de nosotros, delegados, expertos, funcionarios de la UNESCO, acostumbrados a un lenguaje, a documentos, a lenguas de trabajo, a papeles, a formularios. Tuvieron que usar, porque se los enseñamos, el inglés y el francés. Tuvieron que completar formularios que nosotros imponemos y que tal vez no sean todo lo claros que deberían ser. También los convencimos de que es un paradigma usar las nuevas tecnologías y por eso incluyeron la totalidad de la información que nos pide el órgano evaluador en Internet, en una página que figura en el expediente como únicos 2 anexos. Hay un anexo que es esta página donde está la totalidad de la información y no una parte, y la pueden ver en este preciso momento en que se dice tienen 2 años para volver a presentar este tema. Y además hay un anexo que es el resumen del inventario, que recibimos la información de que no tiene fecha. Hay una cantidad de leyes por ahí nomás sin fecha. La fecha es el 6 de enero y fue recibido por la Secretaría y en ningún momento se mencionó este inventario que figura en el expediente. Por lo tanto, queremos alentar que en el futuro, si las nuevas tecnologías enseñadas a nuestros pueblos originarios no sirven para nada, que nos lo hagan saber para hacer las cosas en papeles y destruir la fauna, la flora necesaria para producir estos papeles que para nosotros son más importantes que nuestros propios pueblos. El chamamé debería ser patrimonio mundial, es patrimonio mundial. Lo único que necesitamos es que ustedes, señores burócratas como yo, reconozcamos esto, que el pueblo dice que es y toda la comunidad internacional dice que es. Pero nosotros nos atenemos solo a una serie de papeles. Sabíamos que esto iba a pasar, sabíamos, esto fue preparado desde hace mucho tiempo, no desde ayer, desde hace mucho tiempo. Queremos que se respete a los pueblos y les pedimos, por favor, señores miembros del comité, salvemos la salvaguardia del patrimonio inmaterial. No destruyamos a nuestros pueblos alejándolos de la UNESCO. Vamos a volver a presentar este expediente, vamos a llenar los formularios, vamos a obviar las nuevas tecnologías que son el paradigma de la UNESCO y que todos los días en Fontenoy, en París, estamos defendiendo. Muchas gracias, señor secretario de esta convención, por la ayuda recibida.
Thank you, Argentina, for your statement. Can we have a few minutes more with the interpreters? We have 10 more minutes. Can we now, dear delegates, proceed to the adoption of moi je vais improviser. Dis-moi ce qu'on va faire. We have, dear colleagues, we have completed examination of 49 individual files under item 10A, 10B, 10C, and 10D. We are ready to go back to the general debate concerning the report of the evaluation body under item 10. Committee members, the floor is yours for the general debate. Japan and Palestine.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Azerbaijan, sorry, Japan. Yes, Japan, you have the floor.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chair. I listened to the debate very carefully and with great interest. And I think, our debate essentially confirmed the immediate need of the reflection. And as I suggested, I'd like to propose that we should take a two-step approach to address the immediate need of the issues impending. And particularly, the evaluation process will be a central part of the immediate discussions in the reflection process. So in the step one, that should be completed by next GA meeting in 2020. We should discuss the immediate issues, including the evaluation, and maybe we can complete comprehensive review by 2022. And that's the first point. And the second point, as I mentioned, evaluation process will be the center. And I'd like to suggest a few points that should be discussed based upon our discussion of this meeting. And one, of course, the length of reference, but besides, two, access to the information by evaluators, particularly the information available on the internet. This is the time of internet, and so we should have a very good formula to ensure that evaluator will have a good access to information, which is normally available to anybody. And three, dialogue. This is very important, of course, and of course, the length of referral period is one of the issues, but I'd like to suggest that upstream is very important. Particularly, I think that, we should give a chance to the nominator to revise the file after the initial discussion with evaluators. And this is actually a process, not only to encourage the revision of the file, but actually to encourage the revision of their programs and policy, so as to strengthen the safeguarding of the element. And this serves the basic purpose of the convention. Fourth, the issue of R2. This should be addressed. And one suggestion is, we should divide the questionnaire in a way easier for nominator to respond. But at the same time, I think there are some fundamental issues that is reflected by so-called inappropriate language. We should come back to the original intention and purpose of those who created the convention. I support it, and we don't need OUV, of course. And this is different from the World Heritage. But at the same time, do we need to reject categorically uniqueness, originality, authenticity, and universality? I have a strong doubt about it with my conscience, intellectual conscience. Why community cherish, love, maintain, and safeguard an element? In many cases, it is because that element is a reflection of their unique identity. So uniqueness will provide the foundation for the community to bear, to cherish, and to safeguard that element. And also, why the element can contribute to the cultural diversity and the creativity of the humanity. In many cases, it's because it's unique, it's original. That's why it can help and promote the diversity of culture and creativity of humanity. And actually, the concept of the very artificial concept of interpolative language actually makes the process of the preparation of the file very, very difficult for the nominators. So we should lift unnecessary difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. We have already exhausted 4.5 minutes. May I now invite Palestine, followed by Azerbaijan, to take the floor. I see Poland also, and Senegal. I doubt we can finish it today, but Palestine, yes.
Well, in that case, Mr. Chair, a huge part of what I wanted to say has been expressed by the distinguished delegate of Japan. And for the rest, I think that the other colleagues will say it. So in that case, I'll skip my turn. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Palestine, for being so comprehensive. Yes, Azerbaijan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd also try to be brief. Azerbaijan would like to congratulate the evaluation body for its hard work and for the quality of its report. We note that the report has raised a number of important issues and challenges which will potentially guide the committee and the state parties for the years to come. We'll have some concerns regarding the draft decision. Regarding the examination of criterion R3 in the case of representative list, our delegation notes that very often the draft decision referred to safeguarding plan, while criterion R3 requires measures to be described as it stands in the nomination form and the paragraph 2 of the operational guidelines. We believe it's important to keep the distinction between the terms measures and the plan for safeguarding, since the nature of criteria in both lists are different, and would like to propose a draft amendment to the decision of the item 10 in that sense. Finally, our delegation noted that as compared to the previous cycle, this year the report of the evaluation body didn't present options with regard to criteria R5 and U5, and we consider that similar approach could have still been applied in cases of a number of nominations evaluated this year, even if some other criteria within the same files had issues that needed clarification. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Azerbaijan. I had next on my list was Poland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I try to be briefly. I would like to join myself with all what has been expressed by Japan and focusing on the need of global dialogue, because the most important goal, I suppose, of UNESCO is, first of all, to safeguard intangible heritage, but through promoting it or among the members of the communities, bearers of the intangible heritage, for whom the most important thing is their own cultural identity. But let me concentrate on a certain point. It means R2 criteria that will be used for the 2019 cycle. And thank you once more, Japan, for providing opportunity for global reflection on listing mechanisms. Thus, we would like to flag our will to discuss with all interested stakeholders in the framework of this global reflection the possibility of introducing changes in the nomination form that will simplify the form by keeping the original wording of this criterion. We avail ourselves for further discussions on this issue, knowing that the result of the new revised nomination form will be visible in 2020. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Poland. Unfortunately, we won't be able to hear Senegal, Djibouti, Cuba, and Colombia. And I don't want also to rush and give sufficient time for each committee members to make the point. And I believe that it is an appropriate time for us to suspend our sitting for today. Thank you for each and every one for having participated. Thank you also for the interpreters who have been kind enough to give us some more time. With these few words, I thank you again until we meet tomorrow at 9:30 for this session. And I also remind Bureau members that we are going to meet again tomorrow at 9. Thank you and good evening.